Now we're on issue 12 of Planetary, the one where the last 11 issues you might as well have handy because this is what it's all been leading up to. Now, as much as it's a great story, as I've done this whole series, videos going issue by issue through Planetary, please check out the other ones. I honestly found this a little anticlimactic with the big mystery of who is the fourth man. Now, I'm trying to decide if I want to spoil this or not, but I may need to move on with the rest of the series. Okay, but the reason I found it anticlimactic was number one, we didn't have a lot of red herrings. Okay, the basic subplot is who's the fourth man. The fourth man being the person who seems to fund Planetary, the organization that goes through the secret history of this world. Thus, the subtext being, sort of the history of comics, and in our world and what influenced comics and kind of exploring certain genres and things. But the problem was, basically there wasn't a lot of red herrings, if you will. Okay, there wasn't a lot of could it be this person or that person because we didn't really get a cast that kept coming back of who is the fourth man. Not a lot of could it be this person, could it be that person. Not a lot of fingers poking to our suspects, if you will. And also with Elijah Snow having a memory loss, to me that was kind of predictable that of course the person who can't remember his past or who he is or what it was would be the fourth man. And you also have to remember that his memory loss wasn't complete. It seems like it was very specific in terms of Planetary and knowing people who could be in on the conspiracy that the Four, our antagonist, our evil Fantastic Four, anything kind of related to them. So it was very, very specific. Okay, it was more about the journey that was going on. This was also an issue where a whole new interest was brought to life, if you will. It's definitely closing a chapter, and now we're ready to begin because now that we know who the fourth man is, now it's about why did the Four decide to let the fourth man live just by wiping out his memory. And now it's more about getting to know the real Elijah Snow because the person we've seen before has basically been a shadow of this person. We've been seeing this world of Planetary and our history of comics and all these great fantastic characters coming in through the eyes of Elijah Snow. And we've watched him delve more and more into the mystery and see his curiosity and see that he sort of knows people. Have people been acting funny around him? And we get to go forward. We get to see a little bit of the history of Elijah after this, and the history of Planetary after this, and now it's all about going after the Four. And also, by closing this chapter, we're going in the future issues from here on out. We finally get some more answers as readers, the payoff as readers, the new hook, if you will, of just how evil the Four really are. Because we've just seen glimpses of them. We've only seen 2 or 3 members of the Four, and how they've had their hands in all sorts of things that Planetary has been rediscovering and putting in their Planetary guides. Finding out that Planetary itself has been around a lot longer than what Elijah was told. Little lies that we've been told as readers by the characters in there, just as they are with Elijah. And the person that we see Elijah become in this is a very much more confident person. He sort of his personality is actually sort of reflecting a little bit more of his powers to be kind of ice cold in a way, and basically deadly as the cold is, because you do not want to mess with Elijah Snow. You do not want to get on his bad side. We also get into more of the concepts that Warren Ellis has put into his other books, such as Stormwatch and Authority of the Century Babies, a small group of people who were born at January 1st, 1900, and what's going on with that. And basically, again, this is more or less a straightforward story that adds a lot of foreshadowing for what I just talked about. That's why I mentioned them to move on from this review. But basically, Elijah is just sitting at a desk that he's not supposed to be at, sitting there waiting for 2 people, and it's Jaquita and the drummer. And as they walk in, they're a little bit, acting like they're still in charge. They still feel like they're dealing with the same Elijah. You shouldn't be in here, and where do you get off using Planetary funds to go do this and to do that and use a helicopter? And he pretty much tells them to shut up, sit down, and starts asking them some questions about the quirks. And then he brings up a few clues. Okay, this is where we see he is a trained detective. He goes back to a panel here. And that was another thing. It's almost like Warren Ellis just threw in a few little sprinkles of things we can go back and look in other books for the sole purpose of having a thread go through these books at a time together. Going all the way back to the first issue where he kind of knew Chiquita used to smoke, but he doesn't know how he knew that because he just met her. A few little things like that. His distaste, love-hate relationship with the drummer. Why did he automatically feel that way towards the drummer if they've never met before, things like that. And then all of a sudden he realizes that now that he's behind this desk he's not supposed to be, and he's sitting there throwing out a few bombs, dropping some dimes on them about the way they've acted and some of the things he's seen and some of the things he's heard. He wants to know, why are you scared to death now? And he stands up and he's looking him right in the eye. And he pretty much tells him the game is up. And then he goes over to the drummer and he talks about these Planetary guides and how he's been lied to about things about Planetary. And he's in the drummer's face saying, who writes the Planetary books? Who writes the Planetary? Who writes those books? And Chiquita is sitting there trying to cover for the drummer and stuff, because Chiquita is just like, oh no, this isn't happening. The drummer's like, just like, oh damn, it's up, it's up. And the person who writes the Planetary guides is him, is Elijah, and he tells them, so they've known all this time. And Elijah is not happy. He freezes the table. He busts it up. And that table to me is just symbolic of the barrier that Planetary has put between him and the truth, between him and Chiquita and Drummer, how they've been playing along with some big secret about why it's dangerous for Elijah to remember all these things. And now they're actually really scared of him and scared of the circumstances. And first thing he does to throw the reader off, but you know he definitely remembers everything, is he not only does he come across that pile of ice where he busted up the table, pretty much that's symbolic also the shit has hit the fan, but he gets in Chiquita's face and he was like, where's it at? He talks about, where's it at? He's saying he's remembering all kinds of things, and we're having little flashbacks of this person talking to Elijah, but he gets in Chiquita's face along lines and said, you weren't supposed to find me. And Chiquita was the one that came and found him to begin with. And he says that was part of the deal, was that you guys never try to find me. So right there, now it's about the how and the why did this happen. We got a new hook for the reader. We go into the next real chapter of Planetary and Elijah Snow and the building up of having the showdown with the Four. You know, really unpredictable now where this book could go. What's it going to do? How is Ellis going to take us there? Just a great hook. But we're seeing little flashbacks also of a young Elijah Snow talking to this man, you know, in this chair. Who is this man? We find out the next issue. Lots of shadows and backs to us and stuff. And Elijah leaves the Planetary building and goes out into the street. He's going back into the world, and for the first time we're seeing Elijah as a whole person. He has his entire mind back, and he's walking right in the middle of the traffic like he doesn't care. We have a very confident man who's lived a very long life, and now he's acting like it. And Chiquita and Drummer are chasing him, and Elijah, it's just a great little sequence here that I'm not going to go word for word, step for step in, but you definitely see a more determined Elijah. You see a man who is mad for being manipulated and more or less used as a pawn and all sorts of things. And he just makes this statement, I knew Sherlock Holmes. And all of a sudden we're realizing that Elijah Snow has been at this for a long time about the secret world, secret history of the world, and the little conspiracies that are underneath that we never see and never know about. And what does this guy do? As we can see, he's no longer a very subtle person. He's no longer in the shadows. He's no longer stepping back and just kind of following along with other people. He goes into a park, reveals that he is the fourth man, and starts talking about he's ashamed that he doesn't remember Ambrose Chase. And he voices that there's no way in the world that just by talking to John Stone did these mental barriers start coming down. John was the person who more or less invented psychological tactics. John Stone was our James Bond Nick Fury character from the previous video. Go watch it. And so now he's just like, everybody's been in on it and stuff like that. You know, John Stone probably knew, definitely knew what he was doing. And I can't believe I didn't remember poor Ambrose. And turns out he knew Ambrose since he was a child. And you start finding out that he used to change Chiquita's diapers, so he knows a lot about all these people that he's had relationships for, and everyone's been feigning ignorance. And why were they doing it? We get a little flashback, which is also foreshadowing for another story of him remembering lying on a table looking up at our evil Reed Richards Doling, the leader of the Four, saying that you guys have just pretty much made the game interesting. And if you come back after I wipe your memory, I will kill your whole team. Now, right here, I have a little problem swallowing that, because thus far the Four have been psychopaths and relentless, and we're going to see more of that. And what I like what Ellis does in the future issues where we bring up the Four is like, if you don't like him now, excuse my language, if you don't like him now, you're going to fucking hate him later, and really pull for the Planetary guys to come in and take him out. But I don't understand why, of all people, with the Planetary Foundation and Elijah, why they let him live and why they let the Planetary team live. He's saying you guys kind of make the game interesting, but you're hitting awful close to home, so we'll just put a stop to it. I know we need a story. I know we need the Planetary team, and maybe when you read this, or if you haven't already read this, or you have any ideas, go ahead and put in the comments what you think. They keep them from being bored. They're so powerful, they're untouchable, and these guys kind of made us, make things interesting. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe when I reread this issue, I'll come up with something like that. But the great thing is that now that we have it's all been secrets and conspiracy and not really, hiding things from, the public and everything like that. Elijah goes right into a park, places his hand on the ground, and makes a gigantic 4 over this whole park. Now, why did he make the big 4? Because he's calling them out, because as we zoom out, we definitely see that one of the 4 spy satellites sees the 4 up there. So Elijah is sending a message. You bastards, I'm back. I remember everything, and I'm going to be in your face. Now, that concludes the first 12 issues. So the first 12 issues really was a complete story, in my opinion, with what he did. And you just don't see a lot of pacing and build-up like that. Now, just because I found some of it predictable and disappointing does not take away from the story. That's the oddity in this, right? Now we're back to my opinion, and I would have done things different, which is not a criticism. It means I need to write my own damn story if I want to do it my way. But I don't know. It's a bit anticlimactic, like I said, because I figured it out, and I think anybody can, just because it's a cliche that was used there. But now we got another payoff and another hook to where, oh hell, where are we going now? It went from the predictable to the unpredictable. Now we're moving on with the story of Planetary. We've delved into the history of comics and the secret world of this, and the pieces have come together. So what's next? What's next? And this is also around the time, if I remember right, where we're going to get a big hiatus on the book due to Warren Ellis being sick, having a workload. 2011 hitting for 9/11, affecting it. John Cassidy getting more work at Marvel, doing the Captain America books. All sorts of things started happening that really slowed this book down. So yeah, there we go. Again, that's 2-3 issues that are pretty much straightforward. Not a lot to really delve into unless you see things that are there. The book does seem to remind me of some old movie or something, but I'm not going to get into that. It's just kind of a speculation. But it's a great feel. I think it's a satisfying payoff for people that have hung in there with Planetary, and it's definitely wanting you to know more about Elijah, Planetary, who are these people he keeps having flashbacks to. And what I also missed out there, what I loved, is that it's definitely foreshadowing for the next issue with him saying, I knew Sherlock Holmes, and right when he put his hand on the ground to make that great big huge gigantic ice number 4, he says the game's afoot, which just kind of shows you what's coming, and that it's a whole new Elijah. We're seeing the real Elijah now after hanging in there with him. Alright, next issue. A little flashback tale that has been compared to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but I'll tell you where it really came from. Number 13.